So Jennifer Harrison is the coordinator of the ARC Sexual Violence Prevention Project. She spent her early career in nonprofit writing, editing, then later in independent filmmaking. She has since gotten her master's in criminal justice from Boston University, focusing on reentry services and alternative programming. Jennifer will get started in a minute. I do want to put the website for the Sexual Violence Prevention Project. This specific webinar that you will be watching is part of a curriculum that Jennifer has created, and it is the second. So you can find the information for that curriculum on the website that I placed in the chat, and I'll place it again at the end if anyone joins later, or you can have access to it later as well. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started as well. Frankie, Bianca, and myself will be here monitoring the chat. If anyone has any sort of technical issues, problems related to Zoom or audio, things like that. Otherwise, Jennifer will have access to the chat and the Q&A during the webinar. If you have any sort of question, because this is on a topic that relates to public and private, if you have a question that you would like private, you can select that in the chat. You can select host and panelist or Jennifer if you want something just privately asked or privately noted. Otherwise, you are always free to contact us after the webinar to ask questions as well. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Erin. I'm so excited everybody came. Again, my name is Jennifer Harrison, and this is Public and Private. And I gave it the subheading, What We Can Do and Where. So we know what is acceptable and what is not in society. And there are some rules, not strict rules, but there are some rules. And once we get those down, it's going to open us up to a whole new world. So if at any point you want to make a comment, you have a question, or I like to play games, so we have a bunch of games to play. If you want to write your answer, I should be able to see it, although slightly worried that I won't be able to, but we shall see. Anyway, you could hit at probably the bottom of your screen is the chat button. So you just hit that, you type in whatever you want to. If for some reason I don't get to it, please feel free to get in touch with me afterward. I'm going to list my contact information at the very end, so you can do that. Okay, what are we going to learn today? Well, first, we're going to learn about public and private and why. Why should we care, right? Okay, so what do public and private mean? I'm also going to introduce a third concept, which is semi-private. You'll find out what that means. Then we're going to talk about public and private places. We'll talk about public and private clothing and public and private behaviors. These are three different things. Some are meant for people to see and some are not. And then I'm going to give you a list of discussions or activities that you can do at home. And we'll play lots of games in the meantime. Looks like we're in public now. Okay. Why do we need to learn about public and private? Does this matter in our lives? Well, we live in a world with other people, right? And those people may not want to see certain things, just like you don't want to see certain things. And we also may not want to see certain things. And this is called boundaries. So boundaries really means that we have the right to decide what happens to us, right? So we should not have to look at things we don't want to look at, and others should not have to look at things that they don't want to look at. And we want ourselves and others to remain safe from things that we don't want to look at, to have done to us, to hear, anything like that. So think about a boundary as like a bubble around you. And there are certain things that you don't want to get in. So let's learn how to protect ourselves and other people and our boundaries. Okay, so what does public mean? You just heard me use it. Well, public means that other people can see or hear what you're doing. So other people might be in the same place as you. Maybe you're in a room right now and other people are there. Or, maybe you're doing this in the middle of a classroom and there are lots of people around you. Or there may be people nearby and there's not a wall or a door or a curtain to separate you. So they can look over and see you. So in public, you're not alone. You are not by yourself. What does private mean? Well, private is the opposite of public. When you're in private, nobody can see or hear what you're doing, right? So we see this little doggy in the shower. When you're in that shower and the bathroom door is closed and your curtain is closed, you are absolutely alone and you are in private. So you may be in a place where no one else is allowed unless they knock first. Or you have a door closed or the curtains pulled tight. In private, you are alone and you can feel free to do what you want. And I always put this little reminder afterward, as long as you don't hurt yourself, because that's never okay? So you can feel free to do whatever you want in private, but please don't hurt yourself. We will go over what semi-private is because now we're going to review. So, public places are those where anyone can go and see what everyone else is doing. People in public places are near us and around us. Everyone is allowed in a public place. You don't need permission. You don't need to knock. You don't need to say, excuse me, can I please look over there? You're all there together and you have the right to be there. So we don't have to knock. There can be one other person with you in a public place or a lot of people. And sometimes you're actually the only one in that public place, but it's still public because anybody can come in at any time. Private places, remember, private is the opposite. Those are the ones where no one can come in unless they knock or get permission. What's this guy doing? He's sitting in the bathtub, relaxing. He is by himself. So no one is around us when we are in private. And in private places, we can do anything we want. We don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks, as long as we don't hurt ourselves. We can wear anything we want. We can say anything we want, because no one's there to see or hear us. So it's our eyes and ears only. Now, when someone, she came in, she shouldn't have seen that, she didn't want to. When someone's in a private place, we must knock before entering. And when we are in a private place, others must knock before entering. Now, I will say, Erin was kind enough to mention the curriculum that's now online. And lesson 2 is public and private. And there are worksheets that go along with all of the lessons. And 3 of those worksheets are wall hanging door knock reminders. So one says, please knock before entering. And one says, please don't come in at all. Don't even knock. And you can use these in your house and you can all share and exchange them. And that's the way you make sure that people remember to knock. So what's semi-private anyway? Semi-private places. Semi means sort of. So semi-private places are those where you can be alone, but someone could walk in or peek in. And I'm going to give you some examples. But it's a place where we may be the only one there, or a bunch of people could be there. So if you see this person lying on the couch, she's like, I'm alone. The dog's here, but basically I'm alone. However, unlike in private places, no one needs permission to enter a semi-private place, and they can just walk right in, okay? So you don't want to say, not be wearing any clothing in a semi-private room, like the living room where everyone's allowed to go, or the kitchen where everyone's allowed to go. As a rule, Let's treat semi-private places just like we do public places, okay? So there's private, where you can do whatever you want. And then in semi-private or public, in both of those, you're going to want to act like someone might see you, okay? So don't do anything that you don't want anyone to see or hear. My favorite part, let's play a game. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to mention and show you a place, and you're going to guess, or now that you're educated, you can just tell me, is it public, private, or semi-private? Let's see. Rock concert. Anybody have an idea? I'm keeping my eye on the chat in case you want to write it in. If you don't, no pressure. I'll tell you this one. Rock concert, public. Look how many people are in this picture. People can go in as long as they buy a ticket, they can walk right in. So you want to be appropriate to be seen in front of others. We're going to go over that word later. What about a classroom? Is that public, private, or semi-private? Let's see. Somebody wrote, somebody put semi, and somebody put public. Well, you're kind of both right. I mean, I wrote down public, but you might think of it as semi-private, right? Like when class isn't in session, and if you were the only one in there, you'd be like, well, it feels private, but anyone could walk in. So it's semi-private or public. Good job. What about the bathroom in your house? Ooh, somebody raised their hand. Do you want to type it in the chat if you have a question? Because I won't be able to hear you. Let's see. Oh, okay. So we have someone who said private. The person who raised your hand, feel free to type in the chat because I won't be able to hear you. I'm sorry. All right. But for now, what about the home bathroom? We already got one guess of private. It's private or semi-private because you can be alone, or this person could walk right in. If your door isn't shut, and if you're in a household where you don't say you better knock before you come in, please, someone could walk in. So we're going to call it private or semi-private. What about the park? Walking through the park. It's a beautiful day. I see a chat. Public, very good. It is public. Yeah, anyone could go to the park. I'm sure you've done it. Just let yourself in and roam around. Here's a good one. What about your bedroom? Keeping my eye out. Chat. That is a very good thing to say. So I put private, right? Because if it's your bedroom, you can shut the door. And if you have one of those wall hangers, you can, please knock before entering. And not just please knock, but please knock and wait for me to say, come in. Okay, you need permission to come in. But especially with the windows closed and the shades drawn, so no one can look in. But what if you share a bedroom? These are bunk beds. Now, is it public, private, or semi-private? Let's see. I will tell you, it is. Yes, now it's semi-private, right? Because it's not just yours, right? It's for you to share. How about the kitchen? This guy is chewing his food, not very politely. It's sort of falling out of his mouth. Is he in private, public, or semi-private? Well, semi-private. Let's see. It was private when he was alone, but look at it now. Someone's sitting at the table with him. She just drew up a chair and sat down. So it went from what felt like a private space to semi-private. I think this is the last one. What about your backyard, your personal home backyard? There's a fence, there are a couple of trees, but it is still semi-private. And why? Someone could look over that fence, right? So you want to make sure that you have clothes on and you're not doing anything that you don't want anyone to see, because they could walk up and peek over the fence. If you're in your private room and the door is shut and the shades are drawn or the curtains are closed, then you're in private. Absolutely. Great job. Look at this chat. Chat's on fire. I love it. Okay. Before we move on, we need to learn a new word alert, and that is appropriate. I just said it before, but this is a really important word, especially when we're talking about public and private. So things that are appropriate, are suitable or proper, they are what's acceptable. In a nutshell, they're okay, right? If you do what's appropriate, you're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to get embarrassed, right? You're doing what everyone around you is okay with you doing, especially when you are in public or semi-private. So there are public and private body parts. Why is this important? Because it's not appropriate to show our private parts to other people unless we get their permission. Okay, so you can't walk around outside without your clothes on because they will see your private body parts. We're going to talk about what those are. So public body parts are the ones that are appropriate to show other people, like in public, like your hand or your nose, or, you can see my ear right here, perfectly appropriate. And sometimes it's different depending on where you live, but where we all live in the United States, it's okay to show these body parts. Those are public. Private body parts. Those are the ones that are inappropriate to show other people. Inappropriate meaning not appropriate. They are meant for you and for you alone, okay? With an exception, your doctor who has to examine you, a caregiver, or even a staff person who helps you get dressed or bathe or shower or go to the bathroom. They may have to see your private body parts, and that is totally appropriate, okay? Because since it's their job or their responsibility, they've really given permission for you to show you your private parts. So what are private parts? They're the parts that your bathing suit covers. So think about when you wear a bathing suit in the summer, what is covered? Those are basically your private parts. If you would like to learn more about human anatomy, we will not be talking about it today on this webinar, but I have done a webinar that's called, it's actually called Human Development, but in the curriculum, it is lesson 4, and it's anatomy and physiology. And you can learn all about what the parts are called and what they do. But back to the subject. You can take your clothes off of your private parts in private places only. So you not only have to understand what are my private parts, but you have to remember what are private places, because your private body parts only should come out in those private places. Now, can we show private body parts in semi-private places? No. Remember why? Because private body parts are only for private places. We treat semi-private like they were public. So private is the only thing that gets private parts. Okay, that was a lot. So let's play a game and we're going to remember this stuff, okay? We're going to put it to the test. This person's wearing a dress. Now, where can this person wear a dress? Can they wear it in public? Can they wear a dress in private? Or can they wear a dress in semi-private? Or All three. Let's see. All three. Good one. All three. I got two all threes. Let's see. Are they right? All three. You can wear a dress when you're in public, when you're in semi-private, and when you're in private. Good to know. What about this? This person is just wearing a tie, socks, and a paper bag. What do we think? Are his private parts covered? Can he wear this to school or a rock concert? I think he can only wear this in private, right? Let's see. Yeah, Diana, you're right. Only in private. Why? Because people around you probably don't want to see you dressed like this or undressed like this. So if you want to wear this outfit, do it and be proud, but you want to keep it in your private places, like your bedroom with the shades drawn and the door closed, or in the bathroom with the door closed. Or if you live by yourself in an apartment, you don't have roommates or family living there, walk around the house, that's fine. Just be careful of windows that people can peek into. What about this person in a shirt and pants? I don't know. Is that appropriate just anywhere in front of anyone? Yes, it is. Public, semi-private, and private. You can wear a shirt and pants wherever you are. Very appropriate. What about, see, now it's getting harder. What about these people? People in bathing suits. Well, let me see. Their private parts are covered. So, does that mean they can wear it in public? This is a hard one. And I did it to trick you because I'm not being very nice. Certain public places, let's see what they say. You said public, and you're not wrong, actually. But certain public places, semi-private, all semi-private places, and private. Let me explain why. In private, you can wear whatever you want, right? Let me see, there's someone else. Semi-private also, good. In semi-private, it's fine. If somebody happens to peek over your fence, they happen to look in your window, they walk by an open doorway, well, your private parts are covered. So you're not going to offend anybody, right? But not all public places are good for bathing suits. What are? A pool, town pool, a lake, the beach, a beauty pageant. I don't know. I just thought of that. But is it appropriate, say, to go to school or to go to a place of worship if you go there, or to your piano lesson? No. Even though your private parts are covered, it's not appropriate. So only certain public places, semi-private and private. Good job. What about this guy? He's in his underwear. His private parts are covered. So private. You really just want to wear, yeah, very good, Diana. This is how you want to present, say, in the morning, you know, instead of walking out in your underwear. Now, certain semi-private rooms, I love it. Semi-private if others are around. Excellent. So, you know, is it offensive to sit in your underwear in your own room if someone passes? Well, it might be, especially if, say, someone you live with has a friend over and they're not expecting to look in and see you undressed. So keep it private, I think, in your underwear. What about this? Now, they're wearing a t-shirt and shorts, which seems good to me. But let's really look at the picture. And you can tell me if this is appropriate or inappropriate for public. We know you can wear whatever you want in private. I'm going to tell you. The outfit is great in public. He's got socks and shoes and shorts and a belt. He's accessorized and a shirt. But yeah, it is inappropriate because he's lifting up his shirt, right? If you want to lift your shirt up, that is fine in private, right? Because we're seeing a lot of his body that a bathing suit usually covers. So when we wear clothes in public and semi-private, keep your clothes on, okay? Once you put them on, they stay on until you find yourself in a private place. Yeah, he should be dressing behind a screen. Okay, so we've talked about public and private body parts and public and private clothing, right? What about behavior? You know what behavior is? It's things that you do, like whistling is your behavior, and doing a little dance is behavior. So some things we do are appropriate to do in public places, like she could be at a rock concert, or she could be at a dance class, or she could be outside with her friends in the park. And it's perfectly fine to dance in a public place. And some things we do are inappropriate in public places, like this guy is sitting in his underwear and eating, which sounds very comfortable. But truth be told, unless he's by himself, this is really not appropriate to do, especially if we're looking at him, say, in a movie theater. We don't see what's going on around him. Not appropriate. So it's important to behave appropriately in public places so we don't harm anyone else or disrespect their boundaries. Remember, boundaries, it's things you want to keep protected. I have a boundary on my wrist. I don't like people touching my wrist. And a lot of people's boundaries are, I don't want to see someone else who's undressed without my giving them permission first. It's also important for others to behave appropriately in public places so we are not harmed or upset or have our boundaries disrespected. So nobody is to take off their clothes or show you their private parts, okay? Even in a private place, unless you give them permission, unless you want to give them permission, okay? So remember, it is never okay for someone to say, look at this, and show you anyone's private parts. Never appropriate. So when we are in private, we can have any behaviors we want. You could sit on that couch and eat your popcorn as long as you want, as long as you don't harm yourself. So let's see, go away. All right, we'll keep this person because that's fun to look at. Let's play a game. Okay. Where is this appropriate behavior? Cleaning belly button lint. You know what that is? Let's see. Oop. Private. Let me see. Private. Yeah. You don't want anyone to see you doing that, and they don't want to see you doing it. And when you are walking through the halls of a place, you don't want to see someone doing it, right? Yes, it is private. What about brushing your teeth? This is a tough one, I think. So I'm going to say private or semi-private. So if you are in the bathroom and the door is closed, semi-private and private, great. If your door is closed in the bathroom and you find yourself in private, brush those teeth. If you're in the bathroom with the door open, depending on whose house it is, I mean, maybe some people don't like, anyone to see you brushing your teeth. They don't want to see you, but it's really generally appropriate to be brushing your teeth in a bathroom, right? Now, if this sink were in the kitchen, that's now inappropriate because it's kind of yucky to do in the kitchen. So let's keep it in the bathroom. That's a place where it's appropriate to brush your teeth. Okay, drinking water. Do you think people have boundaries around seeing you drinking water? Let's see. Yeah, you can do that anywhere. Public, semi-public, private. There are places where they don't allow you to have water, like, I don't know, some libraries, if you're with rare books, I guess, wouldn't let you have water, but you're really, it's unlikely that you're going to upset somebody if they look at you and you're drinking water. So that seems okay. What about touching your private parts for whatever reason? Is that for public, semi-private, or private? Let's see. We got a private. This one is important. It's important to know for you and your behavior, and it's important to know for others and their behavior. And that is, it is only ever appropriate to do in private with the window shut and the curtains drawn so no one can see in. You want your door closed, and you want to make sure that everyone knows that they need to knock and hear a come in before they enter, right? Because that is always private. At the same time, nobody should ever show you themselves or someone else touching their private parts. Okay, that is for private and when you are absolutely alone. Now, can you name a private place where it is appropriate? Let's see. Bedroom, excellent, Diana. That's a great one. How about bathroom or the shower in the bathroom? Or yeah, if you live alone and your curtains are drawn and no one can come in, then do your thing, but you make sure no one else is going to look and see you, because that's not okay for their boundaries. And you don't ever want to let someone do it in front of you. Okay. This one is so hard, I think. What about taking off your shoes? We didn't talk about shoes being public or private clothing. Let's see. Is it appropriate to take off your shoes in public? Let's see. Just like the bathing suit, it's appropriate in certain public places for sure, and semi-private and private. Private always. The answer is always going to include, good one, Diana, depends on where you are. That is exactly right. In private, do what you want. Absolutely. In semi-private, chances are it's okay. Different houses have different rules. In some houses, they might be like, no, that's only for private, leave your shoes on. But then there are other houses where when you walk through that door, they're like, take your shoes off. So then you do, of course, because that's what's appropriate in someone else's home is to follow rules like that. Public places, do you take your shoes off at school? No. Not unless, say, you're in gym doing gymnastics and the teacher tells you to. If someone says, please take your shoes off, we're going to do something, that's fine. But you don't do it in a classroom. Anywhere you might worship, if you go to church or synagogue or a mosque or anywhere else, there may be rules as to whether or not you can take off your shoes, and you can ask. Totally appropriate to say, I don't want to offend anyone. Should I leave my shoes on? Should I take them off? That it's always good to ask, honestly. I'm trying to think of other public places. At the beach, probably want to take them off. And if you are hiking, I'm going to advise that you leave them on. You know why? Because you could hurt yourself if you don't. So let's see. Pool, excellent. Also the pool, very good. And some people, here's a little twist. Some people have swimming shoes. And that just changes everything, right? Because you can wear them out of the water, in the water, in front of people, in private, anything goes. Why? Well, I already answered it, and so did you guys. So forget I asked. Okay. When you are home and you're sitting down to dinner, or you have 15 extra minutes, 10 extra minutes, 5 extra minutes, or you just have nothing to do together, right? Here are some things you can talk about, or role plays. You know what role plays are? It's when you, it's almost like play acting, right? You get a situation, right? Like, oh, we're both walking on the moon. And you pretend to be those people, those characters. And role plays are really good ways of making sure that you remember lessons. There's something I repeat in the curriculum. Repetition helps us remember things. Repeat, repeat, repeat your lessons so that you never forget them. So here are these 3 role plays and discussions for home. And here's my little icon. What is that? That's someone holding their phone up, right? So if you have a smartphone right now or camera, you can take a picture of this screen. I won't read this out to you. You don't want to hear me continuing to talk about this. But so you have it on your phone, or you can print it out, put it on the refrigerator. You can always refer back to it. You can rewatch this webinar and either watch the whole thing or just fast forward to where we are now. But here are some things you can do to really make sure you understand public, private, and semi-private. So thank you for joining this public webinar. Feel free to rewatch in private, and I'm going to add or semi-private or public because it's going to be archived online. And you don't have to knock to get in touch with us. Just contact me if you want at jharrison@arcnj.org with any questions or comments. And again, if you want to access the curriculum, and I've also recorded a webinar for every lesson in the curriculum. So one corresponds to each lesson. You can read the curriculum and watch the webinar. You can read the curriculum and not watch the webinar. You can watch the webinar and not read the curriculum, whatever you want to do. But the more you want to learn, it's there for you, okay? So thank you so much for coming. You participated beautifully, and I think you really get this concept. So now you can teach this. And thank you so much.
Jennifer, I have a few questions if that's okay.
Great. Yeah, I love it.
Sure. So you touched on how certain people will wind up seeing your privates. We had family and caregivers, doctors. What happens if you're with one of those trusted adults, but you are feeling uncomfortable still?
Erin, that is such a good question to whoever asked it. And it makes sense, right? It's not usually comfortable to have your private parts out there for someone else to see. First of all, you can tell the person, whoever it is, I'm a little uncomfortable, I want you to know, and then ask. I love it. This is a great answer, Diana. Thank you. Diana just said you can have another person there with you. That is what I always say to people, particularly about the doctor. Bring a trusted adult, somebody that you really trust, and you can have them in the room with you. First of all, it's a great distraction. You can talk to them so you're not thinking about someone else seeing you. But also if you're nervous by yourself with your clothes off in front of someone, bring a trusted adult. Absolutely. Yes, sometimes that is not possible. That is true. You can ask when you're at the doctor, you are allowed to ask to have someone else join you in the room, someone who might be the same sex or gender as you, if that makes you feel more comfortable. There are times, especially if you get help in bathing or going to the bathroom or getting dressed, chances are they are going to see you. So I like to breathe deeply, to say everybody has body parts. Everybody has body parts. They have their own. I have my own. And it's perfectly natural. So that can calm you down a little bit. But if there is someone available to be with you and you prefer it that way, absolutely, that is appropriate to do. Absolutely. I hope I answered that.
Yeah, even if you're in that vulnerable position where you are showing, private parts, can you talk a little bit about how you could still have boundaries?
Absolutely. I love that. Just because someone might have to see your parts, like if they're getting you dressed, it does not mean that they, first of all, have to touch your private parts or are even allowed to touch your body parts. The only time that they'll really have to, unless you can do it and say, I'm going to take care of this part, if they're helping you in the bathroom and they have to wipe you, that has to be done, right? But you can make sure it's done quickly, gently, and then absolutely done. You can have someone else in the room with you. The doctor, you can say, you know, unless you're there for a specific reason why they would have to see some of your, yeah, sometimes we have to wipe them, she said. Okay, I'm going to address these questions. So you can tell them, I'm uncomfortable with this, and you know, I'd rather you didn't touch me there. That is actually a little bit easier if you have someone with you. And you can bring, you know, by trusted adults, I don't even mean necessarily a caregiver. I just mean somebody who's not a child, who's sort of got your back. They're there to stand up for you as you're there to stand up for yourself, right? So you can tell people what you're comfortable with and what you are not comfortable with. Those are examples of boundaries. So I see in the classroom, there are only 2 teachers in a room. I work in a preschool where not all the children are toilet trained, right? So sometimes you have to see other people's private parts. You keep it quick, you be gentle, because that is what is appropriate. I like to ask, is this okay? And even just tell them what I'm about to do. I'm going to touch your bottom right now. I'll be very quick about it. Is that okay? And just to let them know, and to, you know, it's same with you. We all want to feel like we own our bodies, right? And have a say in what people do. So it's always good to ask. It's very hard with children with special needs that are nonverbal. Yes, it is. And that's why we want to practice being as respectful as possible. You can always guess that someone does have that boundary and then behave accordingly. But I do always like to tell people, even when my kids were little, you know, would say, okay, I'm going to do this now, just so they know. Yeah, so yes, that is great too. Watch facial expressions. There's something called nonverbal communication. And that means not using words, not typing them, not speaking them. It's things like a smile or a nod or, you know, relaxed shoulders. That'll tell you that they're okay. You know when somebody's uncomfortable. You know, they might be squeezing their face tight, they're frowning, their arms are up, they're like protecting themselves. Someone is clearly not comfortable when they do that. Yes, and you can ask them yes or no, please shake your head. So that's another great way to convey nonverbal information. I love that. Thank you. That's great, great feedback, Diana.
Jennifer, what if you are in a semi-private or public place and someone does reveal themselves or someone does do something that's inappropriate?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. You go and tell someone immediately. Why? Because it's actually against the law to do that, right? No one, I'll say it again and again, no one is ever to show you a body part or to show you someone touching a body part without your permission. And by permission, I mean you really want to give that permission, not just you're afraid to say no. Okay. So you go, you can tell a teacher, you can tell a caregiver, you can tell a policeman. And you never, ever have to look at that or experience that. And I will say at the same time, you are never to show someone else because they can and should tell on you. It is never, never appropriate, never okay. So that's a great question. You're welcome.
And then lastly, Is there anything else you can share about the curriculum? We had a question about what that entails and what is a part of that and who has access to it.
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. It just went up. So I'm calling it the homosexuality education curriculum. Now, I want to tell you that the first three lessons, those are relationships, meaning family, friends, strangers, caregivers, how to recognize how people relate to you and how we should behave with them, right? That's when we introduce appropriate and inappropriate. The second lesson is public and private, pretty much includes what we talked about here. And the third is decision making and communication. None of those mention anything, any specific body parts by name. You'll understand what I'm saying. There is nothing that should offend anybody. Once you get to lesson 4, which is anatomy and physiology, then we start talking very, very freely about things like our body parts, what they do, increasing the size of your family, and maybe things that should never, ever be done to us or we should never do to others. There are 10 lessons in total. They all have worksheets. There are over 100 worksheets that are really colorful and fun, and role plays and discussions that you can do. A couple of them have experiments you can do by yourself. And it's a great way to learn everything about your body and the world and how we interact within it. And I'm currently working on a personal safety curriculum in which we won't speak at all about anything having to do with our bodies or, romantic relationships, anything like that. It would only cover public and private, boundaries, consent, internet safety, which is a big one, and your rights and reporting. So it's free to download. It's free to everyone. You don't have to sign up. You can go online and either read it online or download it. And it's meant to read out loud. It's almost like telling a story. But if you want to use your own words, or you want to skip over certain sections, or something just doesn't pertain to your family or the person you're with, skip over it. No big deal. It's really for you to customize the lessons, and which you can't do when we're learning this in school. So can you get professional development hours? That is such a good question. Not from me, I'm guessing. I'm going to write down that question though, and I can get back to you, Mary Ellen, if you want to, privately send me you could just private message me right now if you want. And you're welcome. Development hours, and I can get back to you and let you know. So Mary Ellen. Okay, so yes. So if you have any questions about the curriculum, please feel free to reach out, or you can go to, if you want to write this down, the ARC SVPP. That stands for Sexual Violence Prevention Project. So thearcsvpp.org. And there's a button little ways down, and it says home curriculum, and you just click on that and you'll see all the worksheets. And then thank you, Erin. Yeah, she just put up the link. And let me know how you like it, because I'm very excited about it. So.
And Mary Ellen also put her email in the chat.
She did. Thank you. I almost overlooked that. I'm sorry. So I'm writing it down. Mary Ellen, aren't you all?
Mary Ellen also commented, this is a very important topic since some preschoolers may get abused but are afraid to tell.
Yes. And what I would say is, know your trusted adults. Know the people in your life who you can talk to, who will not get angry. They won't judge you. They won't pressure you. They'll be there to listen and to help you decide what's best for you. But hopefully no one will experience this. However, just know that you can always talk about it, and it's very, very important to talk about it. And with little kids, there are things in the curriculum that I have where you can look out for signs that someone has experienced this. So yes, special ed students can be abused. It does happen. So that's why we want to educate everyone that you have your boundaries. You're allowed to have your boundaries. You have to consent. If you don't consent, no one is allowed to do something to you. And there's public and private. And if you know the difference, then you probably won't upset anyone else's boundaries.
Excellent. Such a fantastic topic. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for presenting, for creating the curriculum, for presenting other webinars that we have archived on our website if anyone would like to see any of the other topics that Jennifer has touched on. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Just to reiterate, if anyone has any questions that you think of afterwards, or you have something you want to ask privately, please feel free to reach out to Jennifer or to us at NJSAP, NJSAP at arcnj.org. And either one of us will get back to you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much. Thanks, Erin.